UK vegetarians don't live longer than meat eaters, study finds. What? That's not supposed to happen. A UK-based study into the health benefits of vegetarian diets, the largest of its kind, found that long-term diets reducing or eliminating meat and other animal products did not lead to a significant reduction in early deaths. Not only does this call into question the claimed health benefits of vegetarian diets, but it also challenges recent warnings about the risks of eating meat. The study, carried out by the Cancer Epidemiology Unit at the University of Oxford, wanted to find out if previous evidence suggesting protective effects of vegetarian diets translated into extended life. They used data from 2 UK-based studies that tracked over 60,000 people, providing them with a total of over 1 million person-years of follow-up. Based on a simple questionnaire, participants were categorised to one of 5 dietary groups: regular meat eaters who ate meat 5 or more times a week, reduced meat eaters who ate meat less than 5 times a week, fish eaters who avoided meat but ate fish, vegetarians who ate eggs and or dairy products but no meat or fish, and vegans who ate no food of animal origin at all. These dietary patterns were rechecked every 5 years. During the study period, over 5,000 deaths were recorded, providing data to estimate the relative risk of death amongst each group. However, they found there was no statistically significant difference between them. Although the green bar for the vegans over on the right-hand side appears to show a 10% increased mortality, it's actually non-significant due to the small group size. That said, the vegans and vegetarians did have several dietary factors which conventional wisdom would expect to be in their favour. They consumed the lowest level of saturated fat and had the highest intake of fruits, vegetables and fibre. In contrast, the meat eaters had the highest level of saturated fat and the lowest level of fruit and vegetables, yet their all-cause mortality was similar to that of the vegans. So much for the 5 a day. So what about earlier studies which found evidence for protective effects from vegetarian diets, and those that indicated an increased risk of bowel cancer from red meat? How do we square those with the no overall difference found in this study? The answer seems to be that each diet increases risks of some disease while reducing the risks of others. When the Oxford study looked at the causes of death between the groups, they found some clearly significant differences. This is somewhat surprising considering that the overall mortality was so similar between groups, but it highlights how focusing on a single cause of death can lead to mistaken conclusions. When in late 2015 the World Health Organization classified red meat as a probable carcinogen and processed meat as a definite carcinogen, there was the inevitable media frenzy. Statistics appeared in many papers claiming to quantify the increased risk of colon cancer caused by consuming red meat or processed meat. One such from The Guardian on the 26th of October 2015 said, "An analysis of data from 10 studies estimated that every 50 grams of processed meat eaten daily increased the risk of colorectal cancer by about 18%, whilst every 100 grams of red meat per day increased the risk by 17%. Fortunately, we can put these claims to the test, as the new study gives us the daily intake of red and processed meat for each diet group. If the stats in The Guardian are to be believed, then the regular meat eaters should have about 20% increased incidence of colorectal cancer than the non-meat eaters. But what did the Oxford study find? Contrary to expectations, the vegetarians and vegans had no fewer colorectal cancer deaths than the meat eaters. Fish eaters, on the other hand, had a whopping 40% fewer deaths. That's not only surprising, but calls into question the idea that the heme iron found in red meat is responsible for initiating colon cancer. If that were the case, then vegetarians should be protected to the same extent as fish eaters. Another possibility, of course, would be that fish may contain protective factors rather than red meat containing harmful ones, but this seems unlikely, as the regular and reduced meat eaters ate similar amounts of fish per week as the pescatarians. When taken into account deaths across all types of cancer, the advantages of the fish diet are somewhat attenuated, but again the plant-based diets show no overall benefit. The second biggest killer after cancer is cardiovascular disease. Now, it's commonly assumed that meat eating is associated with increased heart disease. Indeed, meats, animal fats and saturated fats are often conflated and in many people's mind are all bad news for the heart, especially if you believe the vegan propaganda. Yet in this study there was no statistical difference between the diet groups for deaths from cardiovascular disease. Significant differences, however, were found for cerebrovascular disease. This term relates to diseases of the circulation of the brain and includes brain bleeds which may lead to vascular dementia. Risk factors include high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, heart disease, smoking, and high alcohol consumption, although they might need to add another risk factor as it seems that avoiding meat increases your risk. This result is hard to explain, and like all good researchers, the authors conclude differences found for specific causes of death merit further investigation. So what can we conclude? 1. Vegetarian and vegan diets do not appear to be especially protective, and meat eating is not especially harmful. 2. Fears around red and processed meat and colorectal cancer appear unfounded. 3. Whilst choices around vegetarian versus non-vegetarian diets can indeed change risk factors in relation to specific diseases, they're unlikely to affect overall life expectancy. This UK study certainly challenges the claim that plant-based diets are intrinsically more healthy. And what gives it even more weight is it's since been repeated in Australia, where they found exactly the same thing. Aussie vegetarians don't live longer than their meat-loving counterparts. Throw another vegan on the barbie, Bruce. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe below. You can read about both the UK and Australian studies in more depth, along with other nutrition and health articles on our blog at Rosemary Cottage Clinic. Thanks for watching.